Welcome to our meeting. The date is May 26, 2026. The time is 7 p.m. This is an open meeting of the Grand Island City Council. The City of Grand Island abides by the Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is displayed in the back of this room as required by state law. The City Council may vote to go into closed session on any agenda item as allowed by state law. At this time, I ask that you stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The clerk will now perform roll call.
Councilmember Sheard.
Present.
Councilmember Stelk. Present. Councilmember Conley will be absent. Councilmember Nickerson.
Present.
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Hazy will be absent. Councilmember Mendoza. Present. Council President O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember Pollock will be absent. Councilmember Lanfear.
Very pleased to be here.
And Mayor Steele.
Present. Also present are Jill Grenier, the city clerk, Carrie Fisk, the city attorney, and Keith Kurtz, the Public Works Director. Individuals who have appropriate items for City Council consideration should complete the request for future agenda items form located at the information booth. If the issue can be handled administratively without council action, notification will be provided. If the item is scheduled for a meeting or a study session, notification of the date will be given. Council members, do you wish to remove any of tonight's consent agenda items for further consideration? Hearing none, we shall continue. A sign-up sheet was available in the lobby for individuals wishing to provide input on any of tonight's agenda items. If you did not sign up to speak on an agenda item, please come forward, state your name, and the agenda topic on which you will be speaking. No one has come forward, so we shall continue. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Sheard?
Thank you. I move we approve the consent agenda items A through N.
And Mr. Lanfear? I second the motion. Thank you. Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
We will now take up our public hearings, starting with 7A, public hearing request from Kamunga Station LLC, DBA Kamunga Station 2105 West 2nd Street, Grand Island, Nebraska, for a Class C liquor license. Mrs. Grenier.
An application for a Class C liquor license was filed with the Liquor Control Commission and received by the city on May 4th, 2026. A notice to the general public of date, time, and place of hearing was published on May 16th, 2026. A notice to the applicant of date, time, and place of hearing was mailed on May 4th, 2026, along with Chapter 4 City Code, alcoholic beverages. Departmental reports were received as required by City Code, and recommendation is to approve upon final inspection. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed.
Mr. Brown?
I move to approve 2026 TAC 136.
And Mr. Lanfear?
I second.
Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
7B, public hearing on request from Venue Works of Grand Island, LLC, DBA Venue Works, Heartland Event Center, 690 East Dolly Park Road, for a catering designation to their Class I liquor license. Mrs. Grenier?
An application for a catering designation to their Class I liquor license was filed with the Liquor Control Commission and received by the city on May 5th, 2026. A notice to the general public of date, time, and place of hearing was published on May 16th, 2026. A notice to the applicant of date, time, and place of hearing was mailed on May 6th, 2026. and departmental reports are received by city code, and recommendation is to approve. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed.
Mr. O'Neill. And Mr. Lanfear.
I second.
Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
7C, public hearing on acquisition of permanent utility easements for State Street, Diers Avenue improvements, project number 2026-P-1, Conestoga North LLC, Mehring, Robertson, Irwin, and Centris Federal Credit Union. Mr. Kurtz.
Good evening. Before you is a resolution to approve some utility easements needed for the State Street road improvement project.
Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed.
Mr. Brown.
Move we approve 2026 TAC 138.
And Mr. Lanfear.
I second.
Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
7D, public hearing to consider rezoning 40 acres west of Highway 281 and south of Gunther Road from TA Transitional Agriculture to CD Commercial Development Zone and consider the preliminary and final plat for Gunther SID subdivision in Grand Island, ETJ. Mr. Nabity?
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. The item before you this evening is something that has been talked about off and on over the past couple of years. The developers, Triple Crown Investments, they purchased this property at Gunther and 281 2.5 years ago or so. They've been looking at various development things. They were looking at doing the whole 80 acres at one point. They've sold off the west 40, so they're just looking at the 281 frontage and that 40 acres right there on the corner at this point in time. They are looking to rezone that to a CD, Commercial Development Zone. It is within the Gateway Corridor Overlay Zone, so it's required that it come in as a CD or RD zone. They are proposing private streets out there that would be built to city standard. This is out in the 2-mile jurisdiction, so this would not increase the cost to the county of maintaining those streets. They would have a private owners association that would maintain those. They're proposing a private water supply similar to what Bosselman's has. They probably won't do a water tower, but they will have a pump station. It will also be built to city standards so that as we extend down there, we could potentially take that over. They are going to hook up to city sewer. The city extended sewer down 281 to the hotels on the south side of the interstate about 8 or 9 years ago. So we have sewer there. With that, they will be paying the tap fees that are due for this particular property as they get their approvals of their plans. Right now, they have a single lot that they are proposing to develop with a Hyatt hotel. They're not sure what the others would be, and the approval tonight would be the approval of the subdivision layout, the preliminary plat, and the subdivision agreement, the rezoning, and constructing that hotel. They would need to come back as they look at putting things on the other lots and go before Planning Commission and Council again for approval of those things. So this is just that one piece. They are proposing to do this as an SID, Sanitary Improvement District. Grand Island. SIDs are very common in the Omaha, Sarpy County area, and most of the development that you see happening around Omaha, Gretna, Papillion, La Vista, okay, not La Vista because they're landlocked, but the others really is all SID development, which is an additional tax on those property owners to pay for the improvements. So they would know that going in, they would know that that's a possibility. Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this at their meeting a couple of weeks ago and did recommend approval of it. I do have more information for you, but it's the same things that were in your packet, and I know that there are a couple of people that would like to speak on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Nabity.
Public hearing is now open. Nobody signed, well, wait, yes. Michael Stutzman, if you want to come on up and speak.
I'm actually just here to answer any questions of any that you may have. As Chad mentioned, we've been working with him for quite some time. Patience and perseverance are the two main critical aspects to development. So we've been extremely patient and persevering throughout this last 2.5 years. We are going with a known entity that in that first lot that we'll be developing, which Chad mentioned is a Hyatt Hotel. If this is approved, we'll move immediately to begin some site layouts and design for that lot. Anticipated moving forward will be some additional commercial retail type approach, along with maybe the potential for some multifamily and other developments as we move along. So I'm really here just to answer your questions. We urge you for approval. I know we can't quite do that tonight, but would like to just have your support.
Thank you.
Jim, I can't read the last name. Did you want to speak on this item?
Please state your name.
James Majerus. I bought the property just west of the 40 acres. And I heard they're gonna put a motel in there. And I'm against that because I think the city's got enough motels already. And I don't know, I bought that so that I'd have privacy out there and we get a bunch of people and stuff around there, there ain't gonna be no privacy no more. So I don't think they should do it. No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed. Since we can't vote on the ordinance, it's by the first reading only, so I'll read the first paragraph of the ordinance. Ordinance number 10,074, an ordinance rezoning certain tracts of land within the zoning jurisdiction of the City of Grand Island, changing the land use classification of a tract of land comprising part of northeast quarter of Section 13, Township 10, North Range 10, west of the 6th PM in Hall County, Nebraska, located south of Gunther Road and west of US Highway 281 in the zoning jurisdiction of Grand Island, Nebraska, from TA Transitional Agriculture to CD Commercial Developmental Zone in the zoning jurisdiction of Grand Island, Hall County, Nebraska, as more particularly described below, and directing that such zoning changes and classifications be shown on the official zoning map of the City of Grand Island, amending the provisions of Section 3644 and providing for publication and an effective date of this ordinance.
Mr. Brown?
We approve 2026 TAC 139,
Or you mean 10?
10,074.
Thank you.
We would be doing the resolution, not
On the
the
resolution.
ordinance, yes.
And Mr. O'Neill?
I second Doug's motion.
Any discussion? Mr. Lanfear?
Chad, will
Yes.
they be requesting TIF?
No, they are not in the city limits, will not be in the city limits, and are not eligible for TIF.
Thank you.
Mr. Nickerson?
And just a point of clarification from the city attorney, we can discuss this tonight?
The public hearing portion still can proceed tonight. The actual ordinance just goes on first reading, so you can't discuss the merits of the ordinance, but you can have
But
that
we can
discussion during public
discuss-
hearing.
We can discuss the
You
the
can still hold
change.
you can still hold the public hearing.
Yes, okay, very good. Okay, so Chad, I did have a question. Can you pull this up on the screen?
Yes.
I just like people to see where we're talking about. Should have given you advance notice, but it's just good to look.
Is this what you were looking for, or are you looking
Well,
for
the
an
aerial
aerial?
view, you can find that pretty quickly, can't you, typically?
Let me
Give you a few seconds, then I have a question about that. Do we know how many miles this is from the interstate?
It is 3/4 of a mile north of Bosselman's.
North of Bosselman's?
Yes.
Okay, north of Bosselman's, sure.
So it is between it's almost exactly between Bosselman's and Grand Island Trailer. It would be these two tracts right here. And this is Grand Island Trailer, which is the edge of the city limits. There's 3/4 of a mile to Gunther Road, and then this is Bosselman's, and there's about 3/4 of a mile to Bosselman's.
And so we've had development, obviously, with Bosselman's there. There's just one property that appears to be between them, and that's just simply farm ground? Is that
Yes.
what it is right now? Okay. My question, I think this is an interesting location for a hotel, and I'm just curious, and that's not what we're talking about tonight, but that's ultimately what hopes to happen here. I'm kind of interested in the marketing study or whatever that prompted that this would be a good location for a hotel, because we want you to be successful, and you want to be successful. So can you share with us some of those, what have you discovered that would make this a good location for a hotel? And what would your target audience be, your target market? Because as was stated, we have a lot of hotels in town, and when you put up a hotel, typically if I'm going somewhere, we want amenities close to where we are, and Bosselman's isn't the type of amenities that most people would want. So I'm just kind of curious with the thought process about this being a location for a Hyatt hotel.
I can answer that from a branding standpoint. Hyatt is making a push into the mid-level market range where they can compete on that mid-market level. They've always kind of been on the higher end side of things. The Interstate 80 corridor was really our direction in regards to working within them within the development agreement. I can share with you that they've looked at Grand Island, York, Gretna, all along that corridor there. Grand Island just seems to be our first opportunity here. Their positioning in regards to being the closest to the interstate from the other hotels lends well to what they're going to try to accomplish. You are very correct in regards to our ability to have to bring some services around that hotel. That's one of our number one goals, is to fill in that retail corridor that we're going to have along 281 and make sure that we've got some amenities there that they can tie into. But I can share that their main impact was smaller rural markets, mid-market range, where they could start to have an impact and fill out their market approach to their higher level brand and bring it down into more of a market level.
So the target market is more than likely travelers coming off the
Yes,
interstate.
that's
They
correct.
just need a place to stay for the night. They got a Motel 6 there, close now. I think they have a failed hotel was across the street. I think that thing's been out of business for quite some time. So those are things that make me wonder, why would you want to put a hotel in an area where a hotel has failed? I know the Motel 6 is still hanging on there, maybe use truckers, and I don't know who else stays there. But just, we don't want people to fail in their ventures.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just trying to understand.
Let's reverse that question a little bit. Those two hotels are very aged, very aged. So now you've got a newer brand where they're trying to expand their market reach and where they'd like to position themselves. I can share with you that we've identified this along this I-80 corridor. Again, Grand Island just seems to be our first position where we wanted to get started right away. So,
And that's perfectly fine. Now, who bears the risk of this? Triple Crown or Hyatt, or is it a joint venture? Or?
well, Hyatt's just a brand. It'll be a joint venture situation between Triple Crown, hotel operator, and us as the developer, Collaboration Real Estate. Collaboration Real Estate is really made up of several local individuals that want to see this happen.
Okay. And how many rooms again was this?
You know, I think it's going to end up around 107.
Okay.
109, somewhere in there, pool amenities. It's really just designed to, kind of be all-encompassing, but when you go to register or when you go to do a reservation with Hyatt just doesn't have this type of product in their wheelhouse, and that's where they're trying to expand.
And that's fair enough. I'm just trying to understand the thought process.
No, and I appreciate you're spot on in regards to us wanting to be successful in what we're going to do there. I can tell you we've jumped through a lot of hoops to get there. Our last one, we just, with bringing our own water supply in, we just got that approved by Hyatt today, coming in here, and they're comfortable if you're comfortable, so.
Because you are, to your point, you are jumping through a lot of hoops to make this happen.
Yeah.
So we wish you all the success in the world. And sooner you get it up there, I guess we get to test it and see how it's going to work. But
Yes, yeah, and there's more hoops to jump through here, of course.
You bet. All right, well, thank you very much. I was just curious.
Thank you.
Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. Oh, before you sit down. Two things. When did you say, if all goes well, you would like to open this hotel?
Well, going through the SID process, the first thing we've got to do is start to lay out the infrastructure. I'm going to say, and this is just an educated guess, I'm going to say if we could get midsummer next year into a construction phase or early spring, that would be our goal.
Okay.
It just depends on how the infrastructure lays out. Blue Stem, as Chad has mentioned, Blue Stem is primarily one of the largest SID financing groups out of Omaha. They've done a number of them there, and they've been working very closely with us on this one. And to go back to Mr. Nickerson, on your question, the SID works really well with what we're trying to accomplish here, where we know that if we go lead off with the hotel, we've got a really good tax generation situation that helps to offset the SID as we move forward.
Well, anytime someone comes and says, we've had Grand Island on our radar, or that's who we want to go with, you're welcome to come back, tell your friends, just keep saying that same message over and over again. We kind of like to hear that. So.
Yeah, I drove 4 hours today to be here with you guys. So.
Rock on. Well, thanks for coming, and
yes.
thanks for the
your
investment.
corridor to the south looks very, very attractive for expansion, and you probably already know this. Your corridor to the south is going to take off here. There's no question about it.
Thank you.
Is the signage Hyatt, or will it be another name?
It's Hyatt Studios.
Hyatt
is the actual name, you guys.
Mr. Nickerson?
Just think we'd be remiss if we didn't address the question about, someone that's not in favor of it being built. But it's been on the radar in the master plan for many, many years that we wanted to develop along this. And that we have, as you come closer into town, you're seeing where it's kind of coming out that way.
Right.
Now, if we can get it this way going in and close that gap. I know change is not always comfortable, but the whole idea has been to develop this all along, and with people that are willing to take a chance to do that, that's what we would like to see happen. And I know people who live around there, it will be change, but it is part of the progress of our city, and part of the big master plan is to grow that corridor with businesses, and this is another step. So
We're 9/10 of a mile from the city, from coming south.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
7E, public hearing to consider rezoning Lot 2 of Sterling Estates, 9th subdivision, from RD Residential Development Zone to an amended RD Residential Development Zone to reconfigure the buildings and units permitted on the lot. Mr. Nabity?
Thank you, Mayor. This next item before you is amending an RD Residential Development Zone District for Sterling Estates. They were last here in 2016 and had their plan approved. The existing development plan showed one 30-unit building and 6 12-unit or 10-unit buildings on the property. This is the same property that you did approve the TIF on a couple of weeks ago. So what they are proposing now is essentially going back to their original plan, which would have 4 30-unit buildings on it. in this configuration. Because it's an RD residential development zone and they are changing the placement of the buildings and the number of buildings, it has to come before council for approval of this development plan. Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this and did recommend approval of it.
Public hearing is now open. Deborah Klein, did you want to speak?
Hi, I'm Deborah Klein, and I'm with SG Communities. This is really phase 3 of our property. It's actually going to be the final phase of it. We've got about 156 units right now, and what we're looking to do is add 4 more buildings that are the same style as the type we have now, but we're going to have some upgrades to it. That'll be 120 more units. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
They may after, well, we won't be able to have questions tonight.
Oh, sure, gotcha.
So, sorry.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed. Ordinance number 10,075, an ordinance rezoning certain tracts of land within the zoning jurisdiction of the city of Grand Island, changing the land use classification of a tract of land described as Lot 2 of Sterling Estates 9th subdivision in the city of Grand Island, Hall County, Nebraska, from RD Residential Development Zone to an amended RD Residential Development Zone, approving a change in the development plan as shown on the updated plan approved with this ordinance, directing the such zoning change and classification be shown on the official zoning map of the city of Grand Island, amending the provisions of section 3644 and providing for publication and effective date of this ordinance. Actually, Carrie, can they ask questions since it's a public hearing or not? If they had any?
During the public hearing, everybody can speak there, but
Okay.
closed public hearing.
So sorry, does anybody have any questions then? Okay, there's no questions, so.
Resolution 8A, approving real estate option agreement with Nebraska Game and Parks Foundation for Camp Augustine. Mrs. Fisk.
Mayor, members of council, before you on this agenda item is a contract with the Nebraska Game and Parks Foundation for an option to purchase real estate that we all refer to as Camp Augustine. The Game and Parks Foundation is acting as the potential purchaser of that about 156 acres of property down by the river, with the intention of helping transform that for eventual gifting to Game and Parks to run and open, if all goes well, as another state park in our state park system. The option that you have before you is to purchase the property within the next 3 years. So they could do it earlier than that. 36 months is just the longest they have. The proposed purchase price would be for the appraised value. We had the property reappraised about 2 months ago now, and the Game and Parks Foundation has agreed to pay the appraised value for the property. They have this contract places a 1% deposit in exchange for that option. If they haven't executed the option to purchase the property within 36 months, the property just stays the city's and we can sell it to somebody else, but gives them that last chunk of time to get that sale ready. Both Game and Parks and Game and Parks Foundations have been really fabulous partners through all of this negotiation, have made this about as easy of a partnership as one can get, and I can't wait for all of you to hear some of the plans they have in place. It'll be a pretty exciting transformation once they get it done, and I think they'll have some good announcements ahead for the pretty remarkable progress they've already made towards making this dream a reality. This is just the boring lawyer paperwork along the way.
Mr. Lanfear.
I move to approve Resolution 2026-140.
Brown.
I second that motion.
Discussion, Mr. Nickerson.
Well, the big question mark to me immediately was, what's up with the 3 years? I don't see contracts written like this to where somebody has up to 3 years to purchase it. Is there potential hesitancy, reluctance, funding? I mean, there's a reason why we have a 3-year limit on this.
It's not particularly atypical when they need to close a small fundraising gap or to get the property ready for that actual transfer. In this case, my guess is that that's largely engineering work, just to make sure everything is done and ready, so that way when they actually take ownership, they're ready to run and start construction. This option gives them something to fundraise against, to help raise those funds to pay for all the more boring portions of getting a construction project ready to go. This is actually a fairly typical option. They pay that earnest money. It's non-refundable if they choose not to. But given that they've fundraised every dollar they have so far, I think it's a good sign that they're going to do this. They probably just need a little bit more time. And on their end, giving up any money they fundraised before they're ready to use it to make real change is sometimes a choice they might make. For us, it's enough of a deposit to pay our carrying costs on the property through those 3 years, so taxpayers would have no real additional expense for things like the property insurance during that time. Game and Parks Foundation is also working with the city to take over and help out with some of the maintenance stuff. They've got some good partnership stuff planned to help get that property ready, so that way it's in use as soon as they can get it in use. But transforming 156 acres next to a river is sounds like it's going to take a lot of time and fundraising dollars. So.
Okay, so the dollars are one thing here. And I appreciate them being willing to take it, I mean, basically at cost, which is what we spent, is what we're wanting to sell it to. But you talked about something to do with engineering or something like this. If they don't own the property, they physically should not be able to do anything to the property. It's still under our ownership. Are we planning on doing anything at their request?
Likely in this kind of intervening time, and again, 36 months is the latest they could possibly do things. My understanding is they do intend to move faster. That's just kind of the expiration date. Then we do anticipate coming back with some access agreements to let their engineers, surveyors on site take soil samples, do a lot of that work that's necessary before they can start doing the sort of construction work you're thinking about. My understanding of their plans, and I'm sure they can correct me if I'm wrong when they come back to give you the whole sales pitch, is that they will take ownership before you start to see really tangible construction changes. This will just be the core samples and the environmental studies, some of that prep work that happens before dirt ever moves.
Okay, never heard of a 3-year.
Mr. Lanfear.
Actually, 3 years doesn't seem like too long to me. I had to stop and think about that. But to do the job right, what they're going to have to do with that piece of property is set long enough. They're going to have to go into it slowly if they're going to get a first-class job with it. So 3 years, I can live with that. I really want to see this turn out to be an asset for Hall County and Grand Island. And I think it probably will take that much planning. So I'm in favor of it.
Mr. O'Neill.
Just a couple of questions. So I assume, I mean, obviously you've talked to the Game and Parks quite a bit, and they seem to feel very comfortable about the 3-year timeline for this.
3 years is that's the absolute worst case scenario number. They lose their right at 3 years. My understanding is that if all goes according to plans, they will move faster than that.
And then even with any sale of it, there's still a commitment for public access. I mean, obviously, they want to turn this into a state park, but during their transition, there would still, I don't know how much dialogue we've had about how much public access there would be during their development.
They have been, our Parks Department has been doing some programming. We've been in some discussions with them to continue as much programming as can be done while you've got things like core samples coming out for soil. There will be a point in time in the middle where public access gets to be a bit restricted, but based on their discussions, we think that'll be about a year out before it changes from kind of how we use it now. And now, we don't do a ton of public access and programming out there right now. It's a lot of facilitated programming through the parks or the library, and we have had a tenant out at the house, and so they do not anticipate having that tenant be able to be there past the year mark.
Gotcha. Yeah, I spent a lot of summers in Scouts camping out there and a ton of merit badges, and I just want to make sure it continues to get used as long as it can. I know the game of parks is really good at fundraising as well, and I still look forward to what they can do in the long term out there. So thank you. I think 3 years is reasonable.
Mr. Still.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, can you enlighten us a little bit on what they plan on doing with the property and how much money they plan to raise and invest into the property and where they're headed with it?
Well, I hate to be the one that bursts some of their fundraising goals and bubbles, so I'll try to be a little vague, let them have that, little bit of that glory there. I do know that they have already, are close enough to being able to fundraise all of the purchase and the engineering costs. I think there's a couple $1 million worth of engineering that has to happen with the goal of getting it to a similar vision to the study that you guys did with Big Muddy, obviously adapted for state park specific needs and some long-term growth there. But it does seem like that's kind of, though things may be laid out differently and have slightly different features, that same vision of it being a robust, complete state park, not just a rec area, but a total state park, is their vision. To do that, I think, if I remember right, your Big Muddy study thought that would be over $20 million worth of work. What their schedule looks like to do that, what the fundraising looks like. I think that's why the foundation does what the foundation does, and I'm sure we'll be hitting the pavement hard trying to get that money raised to move that pretty fast, but it does appear it'll be all, from what they've relayed, all donor dollars, that they have an edict from the state that it be cost neutral to state taxpayers. So they've got a big load of work ahead of them.
I guess the feedback I'm getting from you and from the state is they will increase the activities of the park and the camping and the trails and all that, like what we'd planned. And if there's anything, they'll put more money into the project, and so it'll be a go-win for the city and for the Rusk Parks. That's all I want to see is I want them to build and expand on what we're providing them. It's a gem of a park, and I'm glad to see them moving forward with it in a good direction.
It looks like it'll be very transformational, that they deliver on 1/10 of what they're planning on. It will be a huge, huge growth to Grand Island, and given the plans and the commitments of the folks that have been excited to share their plans even with lawyers, it's going to be pretty cool when it's done.
Yeah.
Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. Just a couple little things. If this lasts up to the 3 years, is there any budgeting that we're going to have to change at any time, like
No,
impact on us at all?
No, right now, the city's carrying costs for the property are largely tied to insurance, and this earnest money is enough to cover those obligations. Absent a tornado taking out the building down there, this will be more than sufficient. And then frankly, even then, I don't think they would have us rebuild the structures there. So this will cover all of those costs and then some.
So it's kind of, I mean, I'm all for it, don't get me wrong, but just the mathing a little bit. We're going to spend the 10% over the course of the 3 years, or some of that money to cover some costs?
It's just 1%. I apologize if I said 10%. That 1%
Or 1%,
earnest
sorry.
deposit. Yeah, we're paying those insurance costs as part of our collective pool anyway.
Okay,
So
it's not a
There's
massive
no
amount.
increased expenses. Probably, if anything, as they start to take over maintenance expenses, it should actually decrease.
Perfect. Seems like this is just one more, I mean, it's good timing to have somebody want to put a hotel in 3/4 of a mile away from this down the line. I think that they will probably, with the state park right there, have an opportunity to keep it filled in the summer more often than not.
Be well set up for those marriages where one person wants to camp, the other person does not.
Yep, that's where my wife would be. I'm all for this. I've been for this project since the get-go. I think this is one of those great things for Grand Island and just another step along the way. So thank you.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Resolution 8B, approving wastewater cost of service-based rates. Mr. Kurtz.
Again, this item is pertaining to a recent rate study that we have completed on the wastewater utility. GIUD, the water utility, and the wastewater utility worked together and hired a consultant, JK Energy Consultants, to help us evaluate the rates. We do this every 3 years. We last completed this to put into place rates for the fiscal year 2024 budget. And so we are back again to speak about this. John is actually here, and he's going to talk to you about the findings of the rate study that we have completed and our path forward as far as the wastewater rates would be concerned. I believe he is here. I'll turn it over to John, and then you guys can discuss.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Hi, please state your name.
Yes. My name is John Kraske.
Please proceed.
Okay, Mayor, members of the council, again, my name is John Kraske. I'm here to present the results of the wastewater utility rate study. I also did a water rate study and thought I'd be presenting that tonight, but I can't talk about that apparently. So just a quick overview of the presentation, talk about projected financial results, cost of service analysis, rate design, compare your rates to your peer group, and then provide my recommendations for you. So last time I was here was about, it was 2 years ago, about the same time. We looked at the wastewater and water rates at that point in time. Biggest driver of the wastewater rates at that time was looking at future capital improvements, primarily the South Intercept project. And I developed a rate plan that would gradually increase rates out to about 2030, 2031 to get your rates at a point where you could pay the debt service associated with that project. So this is an update. We have updated capital improvement numbers for the South Intercept project and also some greater clarity on some other capital projects upcoming. So you have rates that are effective right now through, you have the third step of my original rate increase will go into effect October 1st of this year for fiscal year 2027. But this study looks at future rates beyond that. So when we do the study, I looked at the financial performance of the utility. I worked with your staff to go through those numbers and develop rates that are fair, reasonable, non-discriminatory, that basically make sure that you're recovering sufficient revenue from your customers and recovering that revenue from the right customers. The biggest, again, the biggest factor in all of this is that South Intercept project. And the estimated cost at this point in time is about $100 million. And it would be constructed over a number of years. There would likely be a financing that would occur at some point in the early 2030s. And at that point, toward the end of that, you would have to begin paying debt service on it. You can't just pay this out of cash. You'd have to double rates for the next 5 years to ever accumulate that much money. It makes no sense. But again, 5 years down the road, there's a lot of uncertainty with this, but we're just doing the best we can with the projections that we have at this point. So one thing I wanted to point out was that your O&M, your operating and maintenance costs are somewhat higher in this rate study than in the last rate study. So that did drive, that was part of the reason for the rate increases. We do have the $7.5 million. And I'll say too, one of the major things, I did calculate out if you just waited until you built that project, what your rates would need to go up at that point in time, and they'd probably have to go up 60 to 70%. And so it's a desire to phase that in over time and make sure that you're not, some homeowner 10 years from now gets a sewer bill and it's double what it was the previous, or 70% higher. And this gives them a chance to gradually plan for that. So at the last rate study, again, the 6% increases, and I had projected at that time that you would need another 6% increase this year, and then smaller increases thereafter. It's my recommendation to actually lower that first increase to 4%, and then continue that series of 4% increases. It's going to be probably between 2031 and 2034. That'll be dependent on the need for additional clarifier at the wastewater treatment plant. So nonetheless, I know you'll need probably the first 3 just to get to the South Intercept project, but the future ones will be dependent on other capital improvement projects. Are there any questions on what I've gone through so far? Okay. So when we do the cost service, I got to figure out which customers are causing you to incur costs. And what I found was that your inside and outside city customers, which are grouped together, they would need about a 3 to 4% rate increase based on this study. And your high strength users, which is, think about, those customers that have large waste streams, have a lot of suspended solids, BOD, those customers would actually require a somewhat larger increase if we followed the cost of service. So the recommendation that I've worked with staff on is to go with increasing the consumption and customer charges about 4% annually for the next 3 years. And then for the high strength customers, those customers would see a 6% increase. There's also another line item for fines. For customers who exceed the limits in their contract with the city, they have to pay a fine each time they go over that limit. I'm proposing to increase that limit, that's a fine, by 6% annually a year, just to provide an incentive for them not to exceed those limits, because if they exceed the limits, then you have problems at the wastewater treatment plant, which causes costs for your other customers. So planning to pass those costs through directly to those customers. I just talked about this, basically 6% for all of these high strength factors. I think this is an important factor when you look at utility rates, because your customers talk to their neighbors, they talk to people in other cities. Your rates, I'll say right now, let me start over. So I compared in this table what the rates would be if you adopt the 4% increase in October of 2027. And so you're about 18 months out from where we are right now. These other ones are what the rates are as of today, or actually, well, last week, I should say. So you're toward the higher end of some of these numbers, but I can tell you too, I'm doing rate studies for 2 of the folks on this list. I'm not going to say who, and I'm projecting rate increases for both of them. I think your rates will continue to be competitive with this peer group, right in this same range of where you're at in a couple of years, and perhaps a couple of these will even move a little bit higher than where you're at right now. But again, that's based on 5 CCF usage. It's about $36 a month would be what that new bill is in October of 2027. Any questions on that? Okay. So my recommendations would be to adopt that 4% rate increase. I've prepared a resolution that I think is part of your meeting materials. That resolution would direct you to implement that with the fee schedule changes. Your sewer rates go into your fee schedule. So those are adopted by resolution, and those would then become effective again October 1st of 27, 28, and 29 for those future fiscal years. 4% for the basic usage and 6% for the high strength. I think you should expect that you will see continued increases after fiscal year 2030 as the South Intercept project comes into greater focus and as you understand what the need for the clarifier looks like for your wastewater treatment plant. And beyond that, I would say just as these things occur, keep an eye on your rates, keep an eye on your financials, and make sure that you're in good shape to fund that debt service when it hits. And I will say too, I think I've worked with a client who was not very proactive about capital improvements. I'm just going to say it like that. They ended up having to expend a lot of money in a short period of time to basically get in compliance with their permits with the state. And because it was in a short period of time, the cost was a lot greater. And they basically had to double their rates over the course of about 2 years. And you're not in that situation here. You're being very proactive about these improvements, and you're making sure that you're not going to surprise your customers with massive rate increases at some point in the future. So although this isn't the best news in the world, I wish I wasn't recommending a rate increase. I never like to do that, but it is important for your financial integrity, it's important for the condition of your system to make sure that you're funding these improvements going forward and that you're serving your customers into the future. So with that, I'm through with my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or if Keith has any further comments.
I don't have any comments unless you guys have questions or concerns.
We'll have to do a motion first.
Mr. O'Neill,
I move we approve 2026-141.
and Mr. Lanfear.
I'll second.
Discussion, Mr. Nickerson.
So you covered a lot of territory and raised a few questions for me. Because the foundation of all of this really is because of capital improvements, and you hit that at the very beginning, because we've learned some pretty expensive lessons over the years here in Grand Island when we've taken on some big projects that we let get away from us. And this is a way of staying proactive and making sure we're ahead of that curve. When we talk about things like this South Intercept project, expand on that a little bit, Keith, as far as what is that? It's a huge project. Why is it $100 million? Because I think didn't we have a $70 million project we did on the last big project we did?
So this is speaking to the same project, and I think there might be a discrepancy. $7 million would be if I built it today. $100 million projected out into the future. I mean, we're looking at a timeline. We need to have it in service. We're projecting to need it to be into service, the South Interceptor, completed by 2037. I'm saying we need to start that about at least 5 years early. In fact, we're talking about, do we need to start even planning a route for this now before things develop so it's harder to build later on?
Well,
It's a big project, and as well as John didn't hit on it, we have the potential need for a clarifier project out at the treatment plant. Our estimates today about $11 million. Which that would probably happen before the South Interceptor, a couple years earlier, or 3 or 4 years earlier, actually. So that could come into play. The other thing, our capital improvement budget does take into account in this study some potential regulatory changes that the state might implement. So this is kind of what I'm going to call worst case scenario on the capital side of it. As we go forward, obviously, in 3 years, we're going to be doing the same thing. When these things come into focus a little bit better, we can kind of tell the timelines. Like John said, we're trying to do the best we can. This is too big of a thing just to wait. We got to project something. So all of those things put into play. Plus, John hit on it a little bit. Our O&M costs are a little higher than what we projected 3 years ago today. Obviously, inflation and all of those kind of things, operational costs. So we did tweak our CIP just a little bit and some of our rehab type stuff that we've been doing and being very proactive on. We kind of backed off on that just a smidgen to help kind of keep these rates in check a little bit. Obviously, it's still an increase, but we're adjusting a little bit. I think we got the worst of the worst kind of taken care of. So I think we have a little time on that. So all of those things put together are affecting this. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I still, to somebody that's watching this or reading about it, when we talk about a $100 million project, in a nutshell, what does that entail?
So the $100 million project is the South Interceptor. So I don't know if everybody knows or not, Lift Station 28 is on the southwest side of town. Obviously, town is growing south and west. A lot of new development down by the hospital. All of that wastewater has to flow through town now. Our existing South Interceptor is running through town. It is sized for 30 or 50 years ago, let's say. We're running out of capacity. So we can't handle the growth. So our projections are based on, we have a lot of flow monitors within the system. We're watching all of this. We're keeping an eye on it. We build models. Again, This next CIP, which we will bring to council here with our budget, our plan is to do a collection system study and again, it's an update just like this to see where we're at in the grand scheme of things hydraulically with all the capacity. We don't want to hinder growth. If somebody wants to come to town, I need to provide the growth to them or the capacity to them to handle it. So with all those things put into play, we're saying that we're going to run out by 2037 of room. And these projects don't happen overnight, so we're trying to look forward to that. We know it's going to be a thing, much like we did the North Interceptor 10 years ago, because we ran out of capacity on the north side of town. We're looking at the same thing on the south side of town. So that's the scary monster we're looking at on that.
And that's a great way of explaining it, so thank you, because it's got to happen. It has to happen, and you need to plan for it.
It has to happen for any capacity growth to occur,
Which is
whether it
why
be
we're here
residential or industry.
Okay, very good. Pleasant surprise when you say you're going to recommend 4 versus 6, but I'm wondering what drove you to that decision, or not splitting in the middle?
So I do want to clarify one thing, as John had mentioned, and then I'll let him speak to it. The 6%, which was planned for his projections last time, was for fiscal year 27 and 28, and then backing off. What this study is showing is we still are looking at the 27 6%, and that's going to be proposed in this next budget. But based on our numbers now, the 28 and beyond, we're looking at 4 instead of the 6.
And why is that? Because the costs are not where we thought they would be?
I would just say, as we looked at the timing of some of the capital projects, we looked at your cash reserves, that when I did the study a couple of years ago, it looked like there might be a pinch point in 2028 that would require an additional 6%. It looks like that pinch point's pushed out a couple, 3 years, so we can phase in a smaller rate increase in 2028, in the fiscal year 28.
So it sounds like this is quite a comprehensive plan that you do. I mean,
It's
this is detailed.
I will say, most rate studies I perform, I usually look 5 years out. And when I started this one back in 2023 with your folks, we were talking about the long term, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we're going to extend this out. We're going to do a comprehensive long term, because again, I don't think it would be fair to your ratepayers to just push this can down the road and then in 2032 say, surprise.
Yep, I agree.
I just think this is a much better approach.
Oh, and 4% is more palatable. I mean, it's still an increase, but it's palatable. Then my final question is, when we show our comparison, and you may or may not have the answer, I think I know what it is, but why is Kearney so much less when it comes to the first, I guess, when we got into the second session there, the 5 CCF, it starts to come up a little bit, be a little more comparable, but I noticed at the 3, they're about half of what we're at. And
yeah. My recollection is they have a lot lower customer charge and then a higher consumption rate. So, they start lower and it's a little steeper, and yours starts higher and has a lower slope to it, I guess is the way to say it.
Just the price model.
Just the way that's their price model, yes.
Once we get into the 5 CCFs, I mean, things are within reason, and my guess is Kearney still has some projects that they're going to have to jump on one of these days, and you got to pay for that somehow.
And a lot of these folks, I mean, like I said, I'm working with 2 of these other ones on rate studies, and they're facing capital project expenditures, maybe not $100 million, but it's everywhere. I mean, there's cost pressure on all those.
Well, and I'm going to interject a little bit. I think the big thing on this isn't exact numbers, dollars, but in the grand scheme of things, again, this is the fiscal year 2028 proposed rate, 18 months from now. So take that into consideration with our peers, as well as this is a snapshot. If they're staring a big project in the face and they've kept the rates low, maybe a little too long, we don't know where they're at capital-wise. And, I mean, I think we're doing the right thing looking forward, and keeping things maintained. Again, we've been pretty proactive on some maintenance type things that I don't want pipes to fail in the ground if I can line them and treat them today. So It's just a snapshot. So but we're in the game. I mean, we're within the reason on the rates.
And what's the difference between the 3 and the 5 CCF? Is 5 more of a residential? Is it a little bigger than a
I would
residential, normal
say 3
residential?
would be,
Probably like an apartment,
yeah,
maybe a two-bedroom
maybe
apartment.
a 2-people household, whereas a 5 CCF might be like a family, obviously, and then the 7 would be if you got a lot of kids or
Sure.
like to take long showers, I guess. I don't know.
All right, very good, thank you.
7's definitely big.
Excellent.
Mr. O'Neill?
I think Mitch asked a couple of questions I had, but basically, especially in the south end of town, with the amount of capacity we currently are using, the amount of growth, we're going to have real problems if we don't get this done in the early 2030s here, it sounds like. And the plan here is really just to try and stair step into these infrastructure investments rather than walk into a cliff down the road. And I think that's a lot more palatable to do that over a longer period of time than a drastic sudden change. Just to clarify too, you said still the regular residential customers will be 4%, but what you called the high strength users would be at 6%, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and I agree with that as well too. I think that's very reasonable. Yeah, it sounds like a very important project, and I support the way to try and kind of stair step into this as well.
Mr. Kurtz, for the sake of me and others who may be listening, what is a clarifier and why do we need another one?
It's a part of the treatment process. Essentially, the solids will be settled out to purify the wastewater, I'm gonna say, so that we can discharge at an appropriate rate. So when we add another one, again, we're just adding volume to our plant. This is at the treatment plant. The interceptor project is pipes getting it to the plant.
What's the timeline, anticipated timeline for another clarifier?
Right now, we're saying 29 to 30.
Thank you.
Please vote. Motion adopted. And then on this ordinance, it'll just be by title, ordinance number 10,076, an ordinance to amend Grand Island City Code, section 3530, pertaining to water utility rates, to create or modify such section as necessary, to clarify and/or make general corrections to various sections therein, to repeal any ordinance or parts of the ordinances in conflict herewith, and to provide for publication effective of the date of this ordinance.
A, closed session to receive update on pending litigation which is imminent as evidenced by communication of a claim or threat of litigation, and to review and potentially authorize the preparation of a proposed settlement of a regulatory matter by the city attorney. Is there a motion to adjourn to executive session? Mr. Lanfear.
I move we adjourn to executive session.
Mr. O'Neill.
I second the motion.
Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
We are adjourning to executive session at 8:03 p.m.
Tonight's meeting was discuss the sale of the Camp Augustine land to the Nebraska Park. Good deal. Good deal. Thank you. pinch hit for Chuck tonight.
Is there a motion to return to regular session, Mr. O'Neill?
I move that we return to regular session.
Lanfear,
I second.
any discussion?
Please vote. Oh, I missed somebody. I think it was, I don't know if mine. Okay. Motion adopted.
We have that language.
It's in the, if you go to the documents, it's in the.
Gotcha.
Mr. Sheard,
Thank you. I move that we authorize the city attorney to develop and submit a proposed settlement of a regulatory matter and to execute any documents which may be necessary.
Mr. O'Neill,
I second that motion.
any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
We are adjourned.